What up, guys? So today on the podcast, Eugene and I have a conversation. A lot of you guys liked the episode 85 where I was talking about the deeper reasons of training. And I went on a bit of a talk with Eugene here today where we were talking about discipline and meaning and stuff like that. And the reason is because I got a question from a young guy who's in his early 20s, and he looks at a lot of the things that I'm doing, and he's like, man, it looks like, to him, it looks like that I have some massive amount of discipline to do all these different things that I'm doing. And, I thought about it, because again, when I share with you guys, I try to be transparent because I don't want to be one of those people that's promoting an idea on like social media that then when you actually get past that point, you're like, wait a second, this guy's full of crap. So when I thought about it, I was like, I really don't feel like I have a massive amount of discipline. I feel like I have something else going on. And so in this podcast, I kind of share those ideas with you and something that might be useful. So sort of a disclaimer to this episode is that the ideas may not work for you, right? This is the way that I do things. This is the way that I motivate myself to do things. It may work great for you. Test it out and try it. It may not work well for you. So again, give it a whirl. That's your job. Just like as a student in jiu-jitsu, your job is to try to take things from multiple sources and then make it your own. See what works for you, then get rid of what doesn't, and that sort of thing. As always, we are sponsored on the podcast by Charlotte's Web. Right now, I'm looking at some of their new flavors and their tinctures. That's like the droppers. They've got the mint chocolate, which that's Eugene's favorite, and then they've also got orange blossom, and then the other one's the lemon twist. I like the lemon twist one. The orange blossom's not bad. If you like orange, you like the orange blossom. But again, if you guys want to save yourself some money and try out some solid CBD products, you can go to their website at charlottesweb.com and use the promo code Chewjitsu for 15% off your order. We also have a newer sponsor that we got here, and he's a nice dude. His name's Matt, and he runs a company called Epic Roll. He sent me he basically just sent them to me. He's like, here, man, try out these rash guards and shorts and stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. So gave me some shirts. He has some pretty clever sort of like designs and stuff, and then some rash guard and shorts. And I've been wearing some of them. If you watch some of my recent rolling videos, you'll see the Epic Roll symbol on some of them. And it's good quality stuff. So again, I would recommend if you're looking for some products just to check them out. It might be something worthwhile. Again, it's good quality. It's not going to tear up on you or anything like that. And so if you want to save yourself a couple bucks, if you decide that you like one of the designs that Matt's put together on some of the apparel and the gear that he has, you can use the promo code Chewjitsu to save 15% off. And that's at epicrollbjj.com. And again, he's got everything from gis, no gis stuff, belts, all that kind of stuff. So, and then the last thing, guys, worth sharing with you guys. Up until March the 13th, that's my birthday. Woo! I'll be 35. Hey. I'm now officially able to compete at Master 2 if I wish.
Congratulations.
I'm old, I'm still going. But if you guys are interested, I just released my guard passing series. So again, this is probably, I think, to me, the thing that I do best in jiu-jitsu, I think, is guard passing. Like when people bring me out for seminars, when I roll with people out of town, when I compete against people, the thing that most people comment on about my style and my game and everything else is my guard passing. And again, it's a very simple game. It's a very simple jiu-jitsu game, but at the same time, it's effective and it has a lot of little nuanced details. And there's an idea multiple ideas, but one of the ideas about it is that everything chains together, and I attack from both sides, up, down, all these different angles. And so again, it may be useful to you both with the techniques themselves, but the ideas and the sort of concepts that I share of it may be useful to where you can sort of take some of your own guard passes, your own stuff that you have, and you can kind of mix it in with everything that I have in there as well. And if you guys want to check that out, you can get it on discount right now. I'm doing kind of like a soft launch with people on my email list and YouTube and everybody else that kind of follows me before I really launch it out there. If you'd like to take advantage of the soft launch price, you can go to Chewjitsu.net. You can look at products, and I'll have it there, so where you can click and you can get a hold of it. But again, it's on sale right now. So if you go to Chewjitsu.net, there's a thing that says video products and courses or something like that up in the website. And you can go there and you can get it for yourself if you're interested in boosting your guard passing game. And guys, with all that said, with all that stuff out of the way, let's jump into the podcast. So what's up, guys? So today I have there's an idea I've been thinking about. I've been chewing on, and I haven't sort of formalized everything, but it's something where I get questions a lot from some younger guys that are having issues where they feel like they lack discipline.
Okay.
Right? And they'll send me messages and they're like, Chewy, like, how can I develop discipline? I want to be more disciplined. I want to, get after it. And it's this virtue that I think that in our society we honor discipline, right? We look to people and with admiration towards the people that are disciplined, that get up and do it, all these different things, whatever it might be. But, again, and I've even talked about it, you do have to do things sometimes that you don't want to do. You got to do them. Discipline has its place for sure. But I was thinking about it, like, anytime I do stuff like that I really want to do, that like anything of noteworthy, anything that anybody's ever that knows about me, or anything that I've ever done that I would be worth that I believe is worth sharing, has never really come about because of like hardcore discipline. It's not came from a place of like I'm forcing myself on some military march or something. It's come from a place of enthusiasm. I'll give you sort of some examples. One from my kids' classes. Here's a great one. This one is exactly this was where my mind was going with it. When I have kids' classes, when I teach a kids' class, I don't teach as much as I used to, but when I do, if I have a situation where the kids are not paying attention, okay, you can go through the normal route of punishing them and cracking the whip and stuff like that, right? But one of the things that's been so much more helpful to me, which typically does the job, every now and then I still have to look towards, taking one of the kids and sort of, giving them some sort of punishment or making them sit out or whatever it might be. But most of the time, here's what I do. I'll look at the kids, I'll bring them in because they're not paying attention or they're screwing around too much or whatever, Again, they're kids, so they're going to, but again, there's a point where you're like, we're not really getting anything out of this. And I'll look at them, I'll say, well, how many of you guys came in here? Raise your hands if this is you. How many of you guys came in here because you don't want to be good at jiu-jitsu, you don't want to get in better shape, you want to go home and you want to get picked on at school, you don't want to be able to protect yourself. You don't want to ever be able to win a tournament and win a gold medal, be a champion. And I'll point to like someone like Chad or something like that, on the wall. Who here does not want any of that stuff, or who here wants that stuff? Who does not want to be a champion?
Yeah.
Who does not want to have these good benefits? And nobody raises their hands, of course. Right? Nobody wants that stuff. And then I'll look at them and say, okay, how many of you guys want to get in better shape? How many of you guys want to get stronger? How many of you guys want to have the skills and the physical confidence to defend yourself if it ever comes to that? How many of you guys want to be able to stand on top of the podium and feel that gold medal around your neck and be a champion at something? Everybody raises their hands. Everybody. And I'll go, okay, cool. What do you got to do? And I'll ask them, so what do you got to do that? And they're like, well, you got to pay attention, you got to work hard, you got to, all this stuff. I'm like, okay. So you guys just told me that. So go get a sip of water, come back, and let's do that. Rest of the class is easy. It's almost always easy because they bought in. Instead of me trying to tell them to do something, I got them to think about why they're doing it, right? And it's a buy-in. They gave me buy-in. It's so much easier to do it. I show this to my coaches all the time. I'm like, do this every time. I would do it every single day. And it's funny because when you do that stuff, it's almost brainwashing, right? Because basically every time the kids do it, I'll bring them back, do the whole same shindig spill. Always works, and then they get to the point where they would know my little isms, right? I'm like, hey guys, what happens if you can't do the little things? And then they'll say, you can't do anything. They'll repeat my sentences, right? I want them to remember all that stuff.
Right.
And so it was the same way. Like when I think about any of the stuff that I've done where I'm like, man, that was pretty cool, right? It's never coming from like, I've got to just discipline and do it, right? Discipline had its place, but it started with thinking about, well, what the hell am I doing about it? And I didn't realize what I was doing. Like it started back when I was like a teenager. I remember when I was 17 years old, I wanted to lose weight. Okay. Right? And my primary reason was to wrestle at a lower weight class because I wanted to win. Like I had wrestled a couple of years and I was doing okay. I won a couple matches here and there, but I never won like a tournament. Like all my buddies were winning tournaments. I wanted to be a winner like them, but I wasn't winning. And I wanted that. And also, I was chubby. I was a chubby kid, man. I wanted to be in shape. I wanted to be attractive to females, right? I wanted to be whatever, that kind of stuff. And so I remember my junior year of high school going into my senior year. I was a big old chunky kid. And I started getting up every morning and going for runs. I would go lift weights. I would go to wrestling camps. And the running part, by the way, is kind of funny because at this time I was getting over some fear that I had because I got jumped outside of my home. So going for a run around the block was kind of hard for me because I was terrified.
It's mentally
terrified to go out by myself and just run around a block. So I would go outside, and there was this little gravel area that would lead to the alleyway. When I would get to that point, it literally was like this little threshold, this little separation between the alley and our gravel driveway. And I remember it was like I couldn't get past it. And then so I was getting ready to walk back in, and then I started to think about one of my coaches that told me that year, hey, Tugboat, that was my wrestling nickname. Tugboat, you'd be a monster at 189. I started thinking about what it would be like to be on the top of the podium and winning a medal, and seeing my coaches standing there looking at me, and seeing my teammates standing there, looking at me with excitement. Hey, one of our guys won. I started thinking about what it would look like if I got in better shape, what it would look like to look in the mirror and not hate what's looking back at me. And I got out there and I just started running. And I kept doing that over and over again, where I would play this mental picture in my head. And I got to the point, man, where I could feel the ribbon around my neck. I could feel the gold medal sitting there right between my chest. I could feel the feeling of looking in the mirror and liking what I saw, right? And when it came time to do things that I didn't really want to do, like it would be a birthday party, and I'd be like, no, I'm not going to eat the cake because I'm trying to lose weight. I would think about, well, here's why I'm doing that. And then it was very easy. It was like, well, I'm doing it because this is the reason. I don't want to. I want to have a girlfriend. I don't want to be a chubby kid. I want to win a tournament. I want to have the respect of my peers. I want all these things, right?
Right.
So it was very easy. It didn't take a lot of hardcore discipline. When it would come up to the morning, even though I was terrified to go for the run, the discipline came from the fact that I was enthusiastic because I had meaning to what I was doing.
Right.
I knew what I was chasing. And then when it got into jiu-jitsu, it didn't change. It was very similar to this. Like I would think about when I got into it, I thought about being good at something. I thought about, being able to, like one of my early goals was be able to beat my coach. Not because I didn't like my coach, but because I'm like, what better way to show that I've gotten better than to be able to nip at my coach's heels, right?
Sure.
So I constantly thought about that. I thought about winning matches. I thought about all these different things. When it came to business-related stuff, doing things I don't like doing. I physically do not like doing them. They're not in my normal. They don't come easy to me. They're not as exciting. They're a little bit more monotonous. They're the stuff that when you think about having the discipline to do the boring stuff you don't want to do, I would think about, well, this allows me to send people to competitions and sponsor them.
Okay.
This allows me to make sure that, Jess is taken care of. This allows me to help, the people that I'm surrounded by that, that get money from me as employees or business partners. This allows me to help provide for them as well, right? And then I think about all the implications in that, right? I get to see them, being able to provide for their families a little bit better. I get to see my girlfriend more happy. I get to see all these different things, my students having better stuff, all this different stuff. And you think about the implications of that, and I keep going back to that all the time, over and over and over again. And that thought, that mental image grows, and you get to the point where you can feel it. And that's the trick. And again, I've seen this stuff later on, like when I got into reading about self-development type stuff, and they talk about this kind of mental imagery. I didn't realize what I was doing. I was just a teenager when I was trying to lose weight, and I got to the point where you can get associated with the feeling. So what would happen is, when it came time to do whatever I'm doing, it's very easy. It's like, I've got meaning to it, so therefore I have enthusiasm because I'm chasing something that's worthwhile to me. I feel like, when people send me messages and they're like, oh man, I want to go train, but I just don't have the discipline. I'm like, do you really want to train? Do you really have a good reason for training? I mean, because, bro, I'm just saying, if you know why you want to train, if you really think about it, why does it require so much discipline? I mean, you're going to have a good time if you go there. 99.9% of my training sessions have been amazing. That 0.001% has been like an injury or something. But otherwise, they've been great.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to do the boring, monotonous stuff that I don't want to do for business, whatever, it's like, well, think about what the implications are if you do that versus if you don't do that. And then those can be pretty, if you really think about them, then it's like, fuck, I'm gonna get down and do it. I don't need a ton of discipline to do it. I just need that, again, discipline has its place, and I'm not disregarding that. But I think that sometimes when people are trying to force themselves to do stuff they don't like doing, it's like, well, think about what are the implications of that, meaning-wise, to your life and to the life of around you, right? What are the implications to that if you do and you don't do it? Or just very easily, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you doing this? And it's been really helpful to me. And it's there's the Nietzsche quote. What is it? He who has a why to live for can endure almost any how. So you can think of that. If you have the why, you can endure any how, right? And so, when you think about that, if you have your reason as to why you're doing, the deep reason why you're doing it, right?
Right.
Well, then the how kind of falls into place, and it's much easier to deal with. Granted, you'll still have to have discipline. We all get lazy and tired sometimes. I'm not saying that, but I think that it gives you, it's a helpful benefit, because if you think of it, your motivation, that's like the fire, right?
Sure.
The discipline is what keeps the fire going. Well, it's to me, to get the fire started in the first place, man, you got to have some meaning as to why you're doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
you know. And so, you know, I wrote an email about this the other day, talking about I choose enthusiasm over discipline.
Right.
Because I wanted to tell these young guys, yeah, I've been disciplined, because it feels good to associate yourself. I'm disciplined. I eat the right foods. I do the right things. All that stuff. But that'd be kind of an ego thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be truthful, because it's like I don't consider what I've done discipline. It's more of like I find things that I'm doing. I think deeply about them, figure out why it is that I'm doing, find the meaning as to why I'm doing it, and then I chase after it.
Right.
And then it's like, dude, it doesn't matter. Like I'll get up like. You know, like when I was trying to do some of the stuff with the business back in 2016, 2017, I was getting up at the butt crack of dawn every single day, got up and would work until the wee hours of the night, and I would just keep doing it all the time. Again, it wasn't the smartest thing, you know, but I had a meaning, I had a reason as to why I was doing it, so I was filled with fire, man. So I was chasing.
So I think you put into kind of two categories.
Sure.
You put enthusiasm and discipline. I think we can break that down. One thing that I think you're doing is you're setting a framework. You're changing your framework, like you're basically putting on these different glasses to look through. Mm-hmm. You're not like, I have to do this. It's like, I want to do this because I want to. It's like, I get to do this.
Yeah.
It's not I have to do this. It's like, man, it's sometimes I feel like I don't even want to say motivate, but to get somebody to really see what they're doing and why they're doing it is you take it away. Mm-hmm. You stop doing it. Like say, I'm burnt out on jiu-jitsu, I don't want to do it, or I want to take some time. You take some time off. And sometimes it shows you what you're missing. Because, for example, for me, like having kids, having a business, the privilege to me is to train, right? Like I think some people having it there and being it just so readily available, you have to make it something that draws you a little bit. Sure. So
people, you can take it for granted.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So when you had said, we were talking about it yesterday, you had said like, you know, I get to do this. Like like when you're dealing the kids, they get to train. You get to train. You get to learn this. And then look at, if you get to do these things, look at the results. So then the other thing you talked about was you used outcomes, negative outcomes, positive outcomes. So kind of like, you know, you can win this medal, or you can, you know, get your ass kicked or be last place or whatever. What do you choose? So I think you have to find, there's a lot of factors. You know, I guess some people respond more to motivation. Some people respond more to discipline, quote unquote.
Everybody's different, yeah.
Everybody's going to tick a little differently. But then you used framework, you know, again, as a something to supplement. And then you also used goal setting or goals as kind of, you know, things to hinder, things to support.
Yeah, I think of it like with the goals. I think of it almost more as a feeling.
Okay.
So basically, like whenever I get there, you start thinking about the feeling associated with it.
Yeah.
Right. Like the feeling of it. Like for instance, like when I was visualizing as a kid, when I was visualizing winning a tournament in wrestling, I had won a match before,
right?
And I knew what that felt like. So then I was thinking about, man, how good would it feel to do that again? You know, like how good would that feel? And you go back to that feeling.
Right. Or how bad would it feel to lose?
Right. You know, like one of the like with the business stuff. Like I remember one of my like happy moments that I've been able to do with some of the you know, with some of the blessings that have come my way. Right. Jess and I, when we first started dating, she had a smidget of debt. Not much. It wasn't crazy, but it was a little bit of a chunk. Right. Well, like when I decided, I'm like, I'm in this for sure. I ain't going anywhere. I wrote her a check and was like, here you go. Like, because, you know, she was wanting to work a little less and do some different stuff. And I'm like, but she has a debt. She can't work a little less. So I was like, well, here, no more debt.
Right.
Now you can work a little less. And I remember she cried. Like, she like kind of, you could see that like the weight, like lifted off of her. And she like started crying or whatever. I was like, it felt good. You know what I mean? Like, because you know, I don't give a shit about the money. I wear jiu-jitsu shirts like all day long, whatever. But it's like I like what it can do, or like, you know, being able to support some of the guys. You know, like I remember like being able to send some of the guys to the Nogi Worlds this year. You know, one of the guys, Frank, he had this really heartfelt message.
Yeah.
You know, and then just, you know, all those guys, and then Justin being able to go out there and win and stuff like that was good for me. Like, so when I am thinking about, well, in the future, what am I chasing? I think about the mental imagery, but then I like associate, what did it feel like to do that for those people? And that like anchors those thoughts to that thing, to that feeling. And that feeling is what I'm chasing. It's like when I get ready to get out and work out, I know that the feeling awaits me. Like when I get done lifting, I feel good, man. So it's like, it is what it is. Like, I'm a little tired now, but once I get the blood flow, I'm going to feel good. And a couple things you were talking about framing, like this is, I think, one of the useful things if anybody's ever done a gratitude journal. I keep one at my desk in the morning.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit.
Real quick. I mean, like it's like it doesn't require like a lot of thought. Like you just write down like 3 things you're grateful for. This is what I do, right? Like because this is the gratitude journal I bought on like Amazon for like $9. Every morning I get up and I just write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I choose things that are simple. And again, I didn't invent this process, guys. So I choose 3 things I'm grateful for that, I could take for granted. So for instance, it was like the other day, I think it was Monday. I remember what I wrote. I'd gone out in the morning and took out the trash as I was making breakfast. Came back in, and the sun was shining that day. We had a pretty warm day that day. So I came back in, was sitting down with my cup of coffee, and I wrote, I was grateful for feeling the sunshine touch my skin. Because there's something about sun, man. When sun hits you, like warm sun hits your skin, man, it feels good.
Right.
Like it's like I can feel the warm.
Invigorating.
Sun. It is. Well, especially when it's been cold, right?
Yeah.
So I could feel the warm sun touch my skin. I was grateful for the warm cup of coffee that I had sitting there right there. And again, you think about the implications of all those things, not just the thing that it is, but you think about, well, if the sun was shining, I was healthy enough to get out and go outside to walk, take the trash out. The sun was shining. I feel good. I'm healthy. I'm alive. Those are all the implications. That's a pretty good thing, right? How bad can life be if you're still going around and you're healthy, right?
Right.
And then I think about the cup of coffee. I have, this chance to where I wake up in the morning and I have the ability to sit down for a few minutes, in my own little thing and just chill, and there's nothing going on. I'm not rushed. I'm not going to like stress out to go hit rush hour traffic, and I can sit and do my coffee and think about what's going to do and go get planned for the day. It's going to be a busy ass day, but I can think about it a little bit. And then I said, I was grateful for waking up next to a person I love. Right. Again, we can take our partners for granted very easily, and we all do it. We all do it sometimes. Any good? It's just kind of spin it back around. Remember, like the implications of that. Like, why is that so important? And I was thinking about that kind of stuff. And so those are my 3 things on Monday. And again, it was it does a good job of framing the day. Because then if you're thinking, okay, every day you're starting off with writing all the shit you're grateful for, instead of waking up and going, oh my God, all this stuff, right? You think about, well, what are all the things that you can be grateful for? And it's simple stuff. It doesn't have to be like your big fat car sitting out, or man, I got like, this chunky watch or whatever. It's like, dude, like what are the simple things that you can be grateful for? You can be grateful for that you have a body that hasn't been, disfigured from some sort of illness or something, man. I mean, because you think about this all the time. Like I walked in one day, man, to a coffee shop, and this dude was going up there, and like he was a young guy, man, and he had a walker. He was like kind of walking walk himself in. So I helped him in the door, and he was a young dude. He wasn't old.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I didn't get into details with him. I kind of chatted with him for a few minutes, but I didn't talk about like what had happened. He didn't really was forthcoming or anything with it, and I didn't really want to press. But I'm thinking like, man, how fucking lucky. I'm so lucky that I don't have to like walk around with a walker. And excuse my language. I don't have to walk around like that. Like I'm lucky to have that.
Sure.
How grateful am I, right?
Yeah.
Or how grateful should I be for that? Now again, he's probably in a situation where he probably wakes up and he's in a situation where he's probably grateful. Hey man, I'm still going. I'm still here.
I'm still moving. Yeah.
So again, it's all about the frame that you put everything in. And so like when you get ready to do these things where people will gripe and complain and oh man, I gotta go. Dude, you have the chance to do this, right? You're still going, like because we're all going to get to the point where we kick the bucket, man. Like. We are, right? You're still going. Well, like how awesome is that? And if you think about that every time you do stuff, because even me, for instance, there can be days where like I'm a little tired, right? Sure. I can be a little tired, man. Like I gotta go up and train these guys this morning, right? How thankful am I? And I remember this. I remember going back. I always do this. If I have that moment where I'm a little tired, don't want to teach or train, I go back and think about, man, remember what it was like doing the stuff that you really hated, wishing you could do this? Mm-hmm. I remember that. I'm so grateful.
You take it for granted.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Well, anything can wear on you over time. But if you put it in perspective and frame it correctly, it's not as bad. And a lot of times it really helps.
So I wanted to see, like, as far as people, I think a good thing is to maybe do a self-assessment and maybe see what makes you because we're all individuals, we all respond differently.
Everybody's different.
So maybe
some people like what I'm saying to people right now, this may not work for you. Right. It may not be your thing. I'm not saying that this is the way to do things. I'm saying that this is the way that I do things, and if I was going to tell you that everything that I did is based upon like hardcore discipline, I'd be like, I'd be lying to you. because it's just not.
Right.
So I'm just sharing the things that have been useful to me. So this way, if you guys find them useful and helpful to you, then you can implement them in your own way.
Right. What would you give somebody advice like, all right, so maybe they're struggling with a task. Let's say jiu-jitsu. How would you recommend somebody go about finding what maybe helps them get on the mats more consistently? I mean, is there anything you think? So you said the gratitude, like a gratitude journal.
You gotta go back and ask yourself why you're doing it.
Why you're doing it.
Why are you doing it? Like, why are you doing it?
What's your purpose?
Like, why? Like, again, like the number 85, podcast number 85, where we talked about the deeper reasons that you're training. That podcast, I got a lot of messages from you guys from that one. And it was because a lot of people were sending me these really heartfelt messages about how, they went in to train, and it's not, it wasn't the superficial, I wanted to learn how to choke someone. It wasn't that. It was like there was different stuff going on.
You don't stick if that's the reason you don't stick around.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so, and even in Costa Rica, when we were on the Costa Rica trip, we were up on this hillside. I don't know if I've talked about this yet on the podcast or not. We were up on this hillside doing this sunset rolling session. So basically we were, and then I was just curious. I got everybody in a big circle. I was like, hey guys, let me ask you guys a question. Why do you train? Why did you get into this? Why do you keep doing it? And you found all these these really heartfelt reasons. Some of them, dude, I was like trying to hold back a couple tears. They weren't the superficial, silliness that people a lot of times think.
Right.
It's like there's a deeper drawing to do things. And I think that a lot of times that's there in so many things. Like there's deeper reasons when you break them down. We a lot of times accept the superficial, but then when you dig deeper into it, you're like, well, what is the real reason to this? Like, get down into it. Like, why are you really doing this thing? And I think that has to become more of an introspective thing. And I think if people are, a lot of times because we're stimulated from electronics and from the media and everything else, that a lot of people don't take time for introspection, where they can just be in their own thoughts, their own head, and think about things just deeply. Again, not listening to someone else talk, right? Not me, not anybody else. Listening to your own thoughts on what you think and what you believe. Because again, your subjective experience is different than mine. And again, I think everybody has to do some self-assessment and kind of take in their own, like, what do I think? No, not what this guy's quoted, but what do I think? Because I remember I got a message from a guy, an email guy, or one of my emails, because I sent out this in an email on Monday. One of the guys sent me back an email dropping someone's quote about discipline. I'm like, cool. What does that mean for you? Like, how's that working for you? Is it helpful? Like, are you disciplined enough? Are you hitting all the stuff that you're supposed to be hitting, or are you dropping the ball somewhere? Again, for me, it's like I just don't operate that way. So it's like for me to be like a taskmaster to myself doesn't work. Right? Because it's almost like a relationship with yourself, right? I want to accomplish these things, and then I have to kind of make a deal with myself. I got to do these things, right? And so again, me just trying to bludgeon myself to do the damn things doesn't work. But when I think about the deeper reasons as to why I do things, and I really get down into it, and a lot of times I'll just do, this is the simple idea that I use. As I've gotten older, I'll take just a blank sheet of paper and just write out why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. Ask yourself a question. See what comes up. Just journal about it, and then see what happens. Because a lot of times you find some interesting stuff, and then hang on to that thing.
I like the fact of the kind of doing the things you're grateful for, because I think, man, if it's kind of like just with anything, with even a job that you kind of hate, maybe it's a job that you don't love.
Sure.
Let's just say that. You get up and you're like, man, I was able to sleep in a warm house today, or I was able to, I'm healthy enough to go to work.
Yeah.
Right? You think about it, and as a physical therapist, I've seen people that maybe work wasn't their favorite thing, but then they get injured and they can't work, and they realize what they miss. Yeah. So, jiu-jitsu in a way for me, I've been kind of approached by some people at the gym and on online and stuff about maybe even having a hard time, or the stuff that I show for rehab. Mm-hmm. It's not sexy. It's not stuff that people really enjoy per se. But I'm like, look, if you don't do these things, your span, your career in jiu-jitsu is going to shorten. Yeah. Not only is it going to shorten, it's going to have more breaks in it. Mm-hmm. It's going to not go as high as you want it to, whether you want to compete or compete at a high level, or maybe keep up with the younger guys at the gym, whatever it is. So I tell people, I have to frame it in a way. I'm like, you love jiu-jitsu. This is what you want to do. Whatever your reasons are. Do you want to be able to do jiu-jitsu at this level or for as long as possible?
Sure.
Well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Well, you need a strength train. Well, I don't know. All I want to do is jiu-jitsu.
Strength training's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, think about, yeah, exactly.
But what does strength training give you?
Exactly.
What will you get from strength training?
Or what do you get without doing it? Like, how's it working for you?
Yeah.
Like, so for me, for instance, like with stretching, I don't particularly like stretching.
It's not fun.
It's just not, I mean, like, I don't mind if I go to a yoga class and they're directing me, it's a little bit easier. But like, to take like a lot of times 2 to 3 times a week, usually about 3, I'll take 20 minutes after a class and I'll stretch, right? I'll get a deep stretch in certain areas that get really tight, especially my hips. And then when I'm done, first off, I feel better. My whole body feels a lot better. I am able to train later on with much less issue. I don't feel so tight and beat up. The next day, like if it's the nighttime session, next day I feel fine when I wake up. If I don't do it, I feel beat up. So I'll stretch because I feel better afterwards. Now, here's another cool part about this. Once you get that habit formed, though, then it just becomes habitual. Then it becomes just like you brush your teeth. Like, why do you brush your teeth at night? Well, because you do, right? Like you don't have to think about it much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't require a lot of thought. Like, you know what I mean? But when you were a kid, my parents might have had to be like, your teeth are gonna rot out. You're gonna look like that kid in the picture or something, whatever.
Right.
There was a reason why. But then eventually it became such a habit, you don't have to think about it. And then like if you like stretching, doing strength training, doing training, or whatever,
rehab, all that shit.
Eating good food. Like even getting up in the morning and making yourself a decent breakfast. If you eat breakfast, if you're fasting or whatever, that's fine too. But I eat breakfast. But getting up and eating good food, well, then it becomes habitual. If you like, for instance, like I eat the same damn food every single day, I don't think about it. It's like literally on autopilot. I'm just making it, right? Mm-hmm. So again, like you think about you have to start off and get those things running. Once they're running, it doesn't really require a ton of like effort because it becomes a habit. But because once that plate's spinning, boom. You don't really have to give it as much energy because it's going.
Right.
So then you can go over here and you can get something else going. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
how much for you do you think, because you brought up a great point on like, doing things and the emotional and the physical kind of implications of it. How much of you doing a task do you feel like is emotional versus physical?
How do you mean?
Does emotion play more of a role in you? Like, for example, think of, winning a wrestling match or whatever. You could think emotionally the feelings you get versus like being kind of fat and out of shape and how poorly you feel or how poorly you perform, maybe how your body feels.
Oh, I mean, for sure, emotions. I mean,
you think it's more?
I mean, dude, people are emotional. Like, we're not logical, right? Like, I mean, we do all kinds of stuff that's not good for us, feeling-wise and physically, right? But we do it because it feels good, right? I mean, like, why do people go eat ice cream and stuff? Because it feels good. Yummy. Like,
but then you feel...
Yeah, you feel bad, but again...
Physically, you feel bad afterwards.
But we're not logical, right?
Right.
We're not logical, but emotionally, we do things. It's why people will, they'll have the wake-up call when their doctor tells them, like, all their blood work's getting out of whack and they need to like change something, then they change something, right? Not before, hopefully.
Yeah.
Even like here's another thing like I do. And I'm just going to go on these little tangents with you guys because again, some of this stuff I'm still sort of playing around with my head because when I answered that question, I was like thinking like, man, like I had to think about it. I'm like, like I don't, whatever. I don't,
you got a little backlash, but for like the
I don't
discipline,
care.
But like.
I'm not disregarding discipline. I'm just saying it's like I couldn't. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you, well, I'm a very disciplined person because I'm not. It's like I have the things that I know I need to do and I get them done, but I get them done because first off, it started off with some sort of enthusiasm created by meaning, and then once I got the ball rolling and it became habitual, then it doesn't require much thought. I just do it. Like you know what I mean? It's on autopilot at that point. I'm just doing what I'm doing because I do it.
So maybe as a take home, find the meaning. Then create the habit, and then you have your.
I mean, like the crude analogy that I used to you last night was like, if you're a guy chasing a woman, right? Again, you could be chasing a man or whatever. If you're a guy, whatever. But for me, I know what it's like to chase a woman, right? Bro, like there's no ends to what you'll do because if you really care for that person or you want that woman and you desire that woman, right? I mean, guys, you think about the amount of art that came about from a woman, right? From an influence to the woman, right? Like, you think about that. What like men will create. And women, obviously, you guys have your own spin on this. I just don't know what it's like, right? But from a man's standpoint, I mean, we will do anything. We'll chase after it, right? That drive to that desire for that person. What if you just took that desire towards something else? Like instead of just like chasing after that kind of stuff, right? Why don't you just like take that same drive, like you wanted it, like you like you literally will sacrifice certain aspects of your health to go see that woman or whatever it might be, right? What if you took that same drive and you just put it towards something else, right? Instead of just that, again, because again, when you have that drive for something, again, there's some biological reasons why you do, but again, if you can even just get a fraction of that drive and put it towards something, I mean, dude, imagine what you can accomplish if you're just gonna go, again, and it's not like it takes a killer ton of discipline for you to go and, go after the woman, right? You're doing it because you want to do it. So if you get some crazy desire cooked up in your head and you brainwash yourself essentially,
right.
which is, hell, the world's brainwashing you. You might as well take a role in it, right? So if you brainwash yourself to, chase after something that's worthwhile, that's going to benefit you and benefit those around you, well then you're just going to go because you're so into it.
Right.
Another little trick. This is just something on the side, but another little mental game I played. I think I've talked about this one before. Is like, let's say if I'm in the middle of a hard training session and I'm getting kind of lazy or tired or whatever, I will set up a scenario in my head. And I've done it so many times that I literally don't have to think about it. I know what it means, like instantly, So there was a match where, it's funny, like my first wrestling tournament that I ever placed in, right, was second place. I lost at the very last second because I looked at the clock with like 7 seconds left, and the guy shot in on me as I was looking at the clock, took me down, got near fall points. I was ahead, and he beat me like at the like with whatever, right? I ended up pinning this guy at in the end of the year in regionals by 1 second. So I mean, whatever. I guess I got my win there. But I remember that match, dude. I was like so angry at myself. I almost had that first place medal, right? I almost had realized the thing that was going through my head going into senior year, right? I almost realized myself getting on the podium, but instead I was in second place, and I got the second place medal, which was still good, but it was still like it was such a bummer. And I think about that. So then I think about these, and then there's other tournaments where I've won at the last second. So I'll play this thing where I'll look up at the clock, and let's say it's like 30 seconds. I'll say, all right, I got 30 seconds to score. I got 30 seconds to score. If I'm in a bad spot, I have 30 seconds to escape and score. And if I don't, I lose the match. And I'll play these kind of games in my head, and I'll start to really go after it because I again, it's a mental game. And again, I know what it feels like to be winning. I've won a match in the last 30 seconds. I've lost a match in the last 30 seconds. So I know what those feelings feel like, and I'm like, okay, I got to go. And just play mental games with yourself.
That's kind of, you've never mentioned that before, actually. So I am. That's a cool thing. It's a cool, like, just a little motivator. And we've done it, like, if we have, you can see it in play if we have, like, tournament rolling or for everybody's watching. Sure. We're like, 30 more seconds, go. You got it, so I think having the discipline, or I guess maybe the desire or the motivation or whatever you want to call it, to see that amount of time and having the ability to push yourself. Because some people say, oh, well, it's just tournament. It's just practice. It's just practice. It's not real.
And sometimes it is. But it means sometimes if you want to push yourself, then you can do something like that. Yeah. I mean, even going to work out, I remember when I was getting ready for MMA fights, right? Again, dude, I'd be so tired sometimes because you're training, you're losing weight. It's not a fun thing to go through camp. And then I would think about, I bet that other guy's training. What does he look like? And basically, I would make this like sort of avatar for my opponent in my head, even if I didn't know what they looked like. Right? I would have this guy training in like Rocky or something. It was just a killer getting ready. Right. So I was like, I have to get ready for this guy. So I would think about that guy training. Like what is he doing? He's probably training really hard. So I got to train harder. It was funny because I'd go into these fights and I would be in much better shape than some of my opponents. In some cases, and it was because I was thinking about them all the time that they were training hard, so I got to push myself, and again, at that point, I thought about the idea of losing a fight and being beaten up and bludgeoned, right, from a knee or a punch or elbow or whatever it might have been. And I was like, I got to go, man. Fear. I got to train hard. I got to push myself because I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want to do that. And so you go. And so again, like with that, if you can get good at that mental imagery stuff, man, like, I mean, it's powerful stuff.
Yeah. I'm learning that it's such, like putting that yourself in that mindset is so much more important than I ever thought it was. I mean, just like, for example, people being really, really good at the gym, like in the gym in training, and they go to a tournament. Oh yeah, and they just shut down. They
don't perform the same.
That, and this is like the mental. It's all mental, really. I mean, yes, the competition's a little different. Yep. It's maybe some things people you've never been in competition against before, but
I've seen people lose in a competition and to beat the same person in training.
Right.
I've seen it happen before.
I did it.
You know. Oh
I
yeah,
did it.
yeah.
I had I rolled.
Oh, you told me about that.
I rolled
yeah,
the guy, and man, dude, I was just crushing him. And then in that tournament, it was the one we had at the gym, but it was no time limit. I'd never done a no time limit before, and I mentally broke. I remember I hit like 3 submissions or 2 submissions, and I thought we're locked in. And I couldn't finish, and I was like, "There's no time frame." Like, there's no time limit. So what the fuck am I going to do now? Like, I burned myself out. I in my head said, I burned myself out. I'm done. And I remember he got me like it was in a collar choke. Like, he was like north-south going to collar choke. And I fought out of it. And then I didn't have I was like, I don't know if I gave in or what I did.
You gave in. You gave into that.
I didn't believe myself. I didn't, honestly, like, I broke mentally.
Sure.
Because I was like, this is like the best I've got in my mind, the best I've got, and but it's funny. It's funny in that aspect, like how much mental kind of warfare, or even just your own mental kind of warfare.
Your headspace is important. I mean, if you can't control your own internal headspace, man, I mean, what can you control? You know, if you have, I mean, granted,
that's your reality.
I mean, granted, it all, like, again, you don't always control it, because everybody, I mean, myself included, it's not like I'm in like complete Zen mode or something where I always have track of it. Sometimes stuff gets me riled up and whatever else. But again, if you're not trying to take some active role in it, when I was making the joke about brainwashing, right? Like, again, I am, but it's kind of true, right? Like, sure. You're constantly subjected to information. And if you don't think about the way that you want things to look and the way that you want to frame the things that are going around you, I mean, dude, you're just letting yourself being pulled around by the strings by everything around you.
Right.
Instead of saying, listen, this is the way that I'm going to choose to go about this stuff. This is the way that I'm going to choose to frame this stuff. You have that choice. Every one of us has that choice. We can choose to take it, or we can basically not, and then we get controlled by something else. Mm-hmm. But you can choose the way that you frame things.
Yeah. Like I'd mentioned before, like, some of that framework you can put things in perspective, possibly not being able to do something, making it as like a gift or a privilege to be able to do certain things in life. We've all been injured, and the feeling when you get injured and you can't train. Bro,
there's people in like go look at one of those pictures where like people are living in like Middle Eastern countries or something where the buildings are blown up and like, they're sitting in this rubble trying to have like some semblance of normal life together where they're eating around a table. That's a problem. Think about people like, that were in concentration camps. Those are real problems. Like, none of us really have real problems today. I mean, we got real problems for sure. Like, like this stuff happens, and people do get sick and illnesses, right? Those are real problems for sure. But I'm just saying, like, day to day, like when we're healthy and everything's good, and we're just like pissed off because some guy cut us off in traffic. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, not a real problem. It's like, it's going to go away.
It's not being grateful for what you have. Yeah.
It's like, it's about putting that stuff in perspective. And again, I don't want to, I'm not trying to trash anybody who has actual real problems, because people have real problems. I'm not saying that.
Of course.
But I'm just saying a lot of times, most of us on a day-to-day basis, at least in the United States and in most Western countries where life's pretty good, right? Food's taken care of. We have shelter over us. And we have the ability to, be comfortable and safe. Again, there's always things we're going to want, but aside from all that stuff, we're okay. So then we have this opportunity where we get to do things. Like, I mean, think about, you train jiu-jitsu. Like, the thing about living in this time that we live in, bro, if you go read through history and you think about, man, like, people wouldn't have wanted to do this stuff before because they were too busy, like, squeaking out an existence in hard labor.
Trying to survive.
Yeah, I mean, like, and we get to do it for fun. Like, it's like, you think about people, like, different time periods, like, this is like a luxury that we get to just play around and do jiu-jitsu, or that we get to go to a gym and lift weights because we don't do anything physical, so we need to go lift some weights. I mean, like, you just think about how lucky we are to have what we have. And again, it's not to say that we never get down, but man, when you put it in that perspective, you're like, things are all right. You know. And so again, people have some real problems, but generally, I think most of the time in our day-to-day life, man, most of us are doing all right.
So Chewy, to kind of summarize, like,
we've been all over the place with you guys.
Let's summarize it, like, so just like if somebody is finding it hard, let's use jiu-jitsu, because that's kind of
we talk about
the questions about.
Process.
Give them like a tangible kind of set thing you would recommend somebody do.
So, I mean, and this is what I do unknowing or intuitively. Excuse me. Like, this is what I've always done. I didn't think it was a thing, but it's kind of a thing apparently from some of the stuff I've read. if you are in a situation where you feel like you lack discipline, you lack motivation, you lack all the drive to get up and do the thing that you want to do, first off, I mean, it may not be for you. I don't know. But think about why you want to do it. And think about it deeply. Like go on a walk, sit down and write about it, whatever you want to do. But think about why the hell are you doing this thing? Why does it bother you so much that you're not there, right? If you want to be there so bad, why can't you just get up and go do it? Mm-hmm. And again, there's a myriad of different issues that you may have to address, right? Like you might, like for instance, if you have some sort of mental illness, maybe you need to go see a therapist of some sort to work with those, and that's okay, right? But think about why is it that you want to do it? Why is it? And think about that deeply, like and the implications that means, right? Like, so you say, well, I want to get in shape. Well, why do you want to get in shape? Well, because I want to like look better. Well, why do you want to look better? Because I want to like be able to go on a date with a woman that I find attractive. Well, why do you want to do that? Well, because I want to be happy, right? Think about that stuff deeply. Get down into the weeds with it, figure that out, and then get to a point where you can sort of fixate on a mental image of it. Like I have a story that I tell myself for different situations. Like Jess would tell you if she was here, like, you know, I have an idea of what our future life's going to look like. Now, it's not going to look that way. I understand this, but I'm just sort of giving myself something to chase after. Okay. I have an idea of literally what our house looks like, what our life looks like, what we're doing, the things that we're looking like, the people that we're having over, all these different things. I tell her the story all the time, and she laughs about it, you know. But again, that's what I'm after. Is like I'm after that feeling of that story, and after all the things that are implicated with it. So again, think about it deeply, and then try to make some sort of mental image, and anchor it to a feeling. So think about like some time where you felt really good, where you did something really well. Like so, for instance, if it's with jiu-jitsu. Think about a mental story where you did really well in jiu-jitsu, or at least even just the time where you came in for the first time and you remember that feeling when you were just, man, this was so cool. Now, anchor that that thought, that idea of you training and you being good at this thing, or whatever it is that you want to get out of it, to it, anchor it to that. So first, think about think about the time when you came in and trained, and things were really good and you were excited about it. And then after that, after you get that good feeling, then go think about the thing that you want. Anchor it to it. And then from there, just basically brainwash yourself, man. So when you go in and you're like, I don't want to train today, I just want to sit here on the couch. Well, go back to that idea over and over and over again, over and over and over again. And then what you'll find is that if you continue to go in, eventually a habit's formed. And once it becomes habitual, it's like brushing your teeth. You know, you'll go in and you'll go to jiu-jitsu, not even because of you're thinking about it, because it's just what you do on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock or whatever it is that you do, and it's just the way it is. You know,
it's automatic.
Before you go to bed, you brush your teeth, and if you don't brush your teeth, you're gonna be, I feel dirty. I need to go brush my teeth. You know, or I need to get up and take a morning shower because if I don't, I feel dirty. Whatever it is. You know, everybody has their little habits and their rituals. Just you make that out. That's what I've done. You use it for what you will. It's not the right way. It's not the wrong way. It's just a way. Again, play around with it, and again, see if it's useful to you. And if it's not useful to you, scrap it. If it's useful to you, fantastic. Yeah. You know, but
yeah. So I wrote down kind of find out your why, and before that, I would say you kind of do some things that you're grateful for. You change your perspective or your framework.
You could.
So
I didn't used to do that. That's more of a recent occurrence. So you could. Yeah. I think gratitude is always a helpful thing.
Sure.
Regardless of what you're doing, it's a useful practice every day.
Yeah. So you said find your why, create a mental image. Anchor that image to a feeling, brainwash yourself, or build that framework, and then form the habit.
I guess so, yeah.
The Chewy lessons to life.
Don't say that. I mean,
Winning Life.
Winning Life with Chewy. It sounds like a really bad book. I wouldn't read it.
It'd be all right. No, but that makes, dude, I think this gives, like, if you're just listening to it, it gives you really a kind of a step-by-step process almost to, you know, because for a lot of us, we've done jiu-jitsu for so long. Just jiu-jitsu in general is not something that it's really hard for us to do. It's not hard. It's almost harder to not do jiu-jitsu than it is to do it, because it's so much
it's ingrained in you.
Yeah, you feel like something.
You feel like something's off.
It's like, man, I didn't brush my teeth.
Exactly.
Oh, my mouth feels dirty.
Because think about how grumpy you get when you don't train when you're supposed to train. I mean, like, you feel off.
I know. I feel like it. I know. Like, I was able to only get in once last week, and then this week's gonna be the same. Yeah. It's just like, I'm like, this is. So I got up. I got out of bed, and I was like really stiff. I was like, oh god, I need to get in more, because my body just gets out of the rhythm. But I did ask myself, like, why the hell am I doing this? I feel like a zombie, like a little hey, everybody gets stiff. You can do all the right stuff. You can still get sore, but man, it's worth it. We had a pretty tough training session yesterday too.
Yeah, it was good. It was good training, and I mean, I was tired from it too. You know?
Man, it's not easy. I like the positional stuff. I know we're getting off a tangent, but
yeah, we're talking.
I really like the positional stuff when we work it, and then like we just do full rolling. Like, you may not find yourself there.
Yeah,
it's like I just learned this stuff. I know it's gonna be harder to hit it, but I want to solidify. It's like learning to spell a word. It's like repeat it.
Learning how to spell it, learning how to use it in a sentence, all that kind of stuff. Right?
Sure.
It's the same thing.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah,
language. Jiu-jitsu language.
Because it's like in jiu-jitsu, right? You learn a move, you know that it exists, but that means about nothing in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Like, okay, so you know a move exists, good for you, right? But you can't use it, right? This drives me nuts. Where people like they'll geek out on some move. I'm like, great, let me see you use it. Like, because jiu-jitsu, that's the whole thing. Is it's about like effectiveness, practicality, not just about you flashing some cool move on. It's like, let me see you do it. Because that's effectiveness. That means I can do it to someone. And so, when you know a move, that doesn't mean anything. What matters is, has it been wired into your nervous system?
Right.
Because, there's some sort of, I don't know what the hell it is, but there's some sort of like intelligence throughout the body where, you don't, like when you're doing jiu-jitsu in a lot of cases, you don't think about it. It's like almost like your hand is talking to your brain, which it is, right? It's saying, hey, there's something happening over here. We need to do this, right? You stop thinking. It's just like pattern recognition, basically.
Right.
And I think about like we've been doing the back mount, right? And dude, my back mount's gotten so much better with my left side because I've been focusing on
Your
it.
other side, okay.
I've only been doing everything from that side. And so, man, by the end of this month, like I've been able to trap the arms like I've never been able to trap before. I've been able to choke with the left arm like I've never been able to do before because I'm forcing myself there. But I was thinking about the other day, I'm like, man, like a lot of this is like I'm fighting stuff and I'm not thinking about anything. Right. It's just like I can feel it brush.
Pattern recognition.
Yeah, and I can feel it brush across my shoulder. I can defend the neck, or when my arms are going under the neck, I just feel the right stuff. You just feel it. And to me, that's what you're really after. You're not after like, well, cool, I know this move. Well, great, you know the move, but you haven't learned it yet. It hasn't been wired into your body yet. That's what is really important.
So I started, we had talked about, you posted a video on the vault, I think, or about, training to the other side. Mm-hmm. And so I started trying to pass the other side on people. Instead of going to my left, going to my right, their left.
How was it?
It's good.
Good.
I liked it. Yeah. Well, because it was during Nogi, and so I was like there's more movement, so they would move around a little more, not as much stuff to grab and set up. So I liked it a lot, and it was good for me to think about.
You have to think a little bit more for it.
You think a little bit more, but like, okay, who's better at their dummy side?
Yeah,
and that turns into a whole different game. You may be better at your dummy side than and you just go that way.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was kind of playing around. But, pattern recognition we talked about. I took this course a couple of weekends ago, and the guy running the course, Dr. Spina, was talking about, like, it's not necessarily like there's no such thing as muscle memory. It's more like being able to account for the variables.
How do you mean?
Basically, your body is better able to account for all these different variables in the environment and perform the movement. So you're not building a muscle memory. It means there's more shit going on. Your body's better able to adapt to the changing environment. And you're able to do that movement because of your body's ability to adapt. Your body's ability to account for variability. Which is, I think, is kind of saying the same thing in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, because
in my opinion, obviously your muscles don't have a memory. You're kind of like more neurologically training. You're training your brain more than anything, because it's like.
But there's this mind-body connection.
Exactly. But he was talking about basically like...
Well, shit. I mean, when you think about this damn thing, it's connected to all this stuff. Like, when you think about the way that your brain is, if we were to take
She's pointing at me.
If you took your, when you look at your brain and your spinal column, your nervous system, it looks like a little plant or a flower.
Yeah, like little branches.
And then at the bottom, it looks like roots.
Yeah, roots.
You know what I mean? So you think about it, we separate the two, but they're all connected.
Right.
So I mean, it's like we think of brain and body as different, but I mean, dude, they're all interconnected with each other. Because it's like you think about, well, this right here, when I touch you, right, I'm touching you on the hand right now. You have a signal that's been sent up there to tell you, oh, Chewy's touching me.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like it's all together.
Right. No, it's really interesting to me to. I've gotten more. I've been reading more about like kind of the mental aspect of just improving yourself, just getting out of bad habits and things. Like I've been reading a lot more about habits, about like self-improvement, just changing your, like you said, changing your perspective or changing your framework. If you feel like sometimes, I get kind of like I get worn out by the day to day. But changing, like you talked about, changing your perspective was really something that I've been trying to practice. But yeah, that was interesting. It's an interesting concept, that course that I took. But
yeah, because I think about muscle memory. Like, it maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. But to me, it's like you think about
neurological, the signal gets there more
efficiently. I just think it's like, because it's like you think about like when because when you do something over and over and over again, it's like you do it without even thinking about it, and it just comes off, and it's like it becomes faster. It becomes more effortless. It becomes more efficient. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, like. Whatever it is, it makes sense to me, so I'll continue to use the idea just because it makes sense. Maybe and I don't mean that my body. Your body to me does have some. Your mind and body has a memory of something.
Sure,
you know what I mean, because obviously you think about like
there is, because think about this. Because
think about you can. I didn't ride a bike for like 12 years, 13 years, and I remember I wanted to get a bike, so I went to the bike shop, and I remember I go in there and I'm looking around the bikes and. Like he was like, I was like, okay, I guess I'll take, he was showing me some different ones. And I was like, well, I can take that one. He goes, well, do you want to ride it first? I was like, he's like, yeah, go take it for a spin around the block. And I'm like, oh shit, I haven't ridden a bike in like 13 years or something, So I get on the bike and we're on Bardstown Road, which in Louisville is a pretty populated area. Lots of like little like shops and stuff with outdoor seating.
Yeah.
So I hop on this bike and I start going and I'm like wobbling for a second, right? I'm wobbling and I go, oh no, right? And I'm going towards these people sitting eating some pizza at Impala's areas. Yeah, I'm like, oh my god, dude, I'm about to just crash into these people. And then all of a sudden, it was like it caught, and then boom, I was off. Yeah. I rode that bike around I went for about a half a mile just to kind of test it out. It's like it just came right back. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you think about that. It's like I remember riding the bike without training wheels when I was a kid, and I was like just eating crap all the time.
Like no hands pedaling, not even using your hands.
Well, no. I mean, like when I first started, like when they took the training wheels off, and I said plop, plop.
Well,
plop.
Eventually you get to where you don't use hands.
Then you start just testing it out. So again, you get better at it. And so but to think I hadn't done it for so long, and it instantly came back. And it's like you have it. Even like some of the guys in jiu-jitsu. Like there's a guy named Nate who just came back. He it's funny because he actually beat the tar out of me when I was a blue belt. Way back then. He just you haven't met him yet. He was in there last night. He had a big beard.
Yeah, purple.
Yeah,
purple belt. Yeah.
So yeah, he used to train back then. He was in great shape, man. I remember he frustrated the hell out of me when we were rolling one time, and I'm glad he came back and trained. But he was training, and again, he's rusty. But
how long has it been since he's trained?
Oh man, probably 2006 or something. Whoa, been a long time, right? Like some years. Because he ended up he had a kid on the way, changed jobs, and doing all this different stuff. But now him and his kids are training. But I think about that. Like that guy was training there, and again, he's rusty, but he still knew what he was doing.
He's still there.
The memory's still there. He's still doing some stuff.
I wonder what, when people are gone for a long time, I wonder what gives them that push. Because what makes that day so special? That somebody comes back to train. Why? Like we have Mike Colley. Yeah. Mike was gone for a while. He's a brown belt. He's been training.
He always wanted to be back.
He's been training as long as he always wanted to be back. So the desire has to be there, obviously. But also you got to think about if I'm a purple belt and I haven't trained in 10 years, 12 years, I'm gonna come back. Oh shit! There's gonna be blue belts, maybe even white belts that give me some fits because I have not trained. I'm out of shape.
Sure.
I'm older. My body. Who knows how my body's gonna hold up? What do you think that is? What do you think is the thing that that today's the day? We have to ask them.
I don't know. I think that you probably go through, there's probably a whole myriad of things going on there, right? You probably have to get some things in the way, like ducks in a row, right? Because it's like, obviously if there's like a thing where I'm pursuing a new job or, whatever, if that's in the way, then you kind of have to iron that out first. And then, you kind of, everybody's had this all of a sudden where today's going to be the day you're going to do something, right? Like everybody's done it at least once in their life,
Yeah.
So I think it's probably one of those things where it almost builds up until you're like, all right, I'm doing it, and whatever it was, maybe you're getting your ducks in a row, and then finally you had the opportunity to do it after some time, or maybe it's been sitting there lingering, and then so who knows, you just never.
I think mentally it would be really tough. I think more than physically, probably mentally, it'd be really tough because there's an ego or an expectation.
There can be.
And if you come in and you're like, oh, I'm not worth this belt, or I'm not worth this level, or whatever it is.
You frame the damn thing and you say, like, again, I've talked to this about, and I've done this in a couple of different videos. Like, if you're coming back from a layoff, like, you got to take on the mindset you had when you first started training, right? I don't care. I'm just here. Man, it feels good to be here. Because remember,
it's good to be back.
Because remember when you first started training, like, you know, everybody came in. The same thing happens to them. You go in and you don't know what you're doing. If you roll, you have no clue. And you know the guys are kind of nice to you, but they still kick your butt.
Yep.
You know, and you love it. You love every moment of it. You're like, this is so cool. You know what I mean? Like, you know, again, like I remember going to the first day of training, and I was this young wrestler kid. I thought I would do pretty good. I was sure that I was going to be close to blue belt level, right? And then I got smoked by everybody, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was like, this is so cool. I remember falling asleep, and like I was so tired. I fell asleep at 9:30. I'm like 19 years old. I never fall, or 18 years old, excuse me. You don't ever fall asleep at 9:30 at 18 years old, right? Like
too much energy.
Yeah, you're staying up too late. So you never do that. But I did that night. I fell asleep at 9:30. I was asleep, slept like a baby. Woke up the next morning and places sore that I'd never worked out before.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. And, you know, so again, and I've had some layoffs before where I come back and, you know, guys are like, I remember coming back from in 2014, 13, 14, I had a string of injuries that lasted, gosh, man, months. I mean, I really didn't get back to training because I had an injury in December, January, March, did not get back to any reasonable training until like May. So for almost like 5-6 months, bro, I didn't do much because it started off, I twisted my back doing something. I was like walking a bunch, and I was training at I think it was Marcelo's gym up in New York, yeah. And it had some good rolls and stuff like that. And the next morning, literally, I didn't feel like I could get up. I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh my god, like I can't stand. Like, and then I had to loosen up my back, or everything was fine afterwards. But it was really weird.
Spinal,
broke my back. And then I popped my ankle wrestling one day, and my ankle just got caught up under me.
How close together?
The next month, or not even the next month, like within 2 weeks. Pop my ankle.
How much time did you take off between injuries?
Well, the back thing kind of went away pretty quickly. The ankle thing, I took about a week off, and then I started playing off my back, you know, and I was fine. It wasn't too bad, just a pop ankle. And then about maybe 3 weeks later, on January 13th, I broke my nose. Shot in for a shot, and I got caught with a knee.
That's bad luck, I would say. Yeah.
So then I, you know, rehabbed that. And again, I couldn't. The doctor was adamant. You cannot train or do anything for a while. Like he's like, you just can't.
How long?
I think he said it was like he would recommend no heavy lifting or anything for like 90 days
because of the pressure.
For the pressure. So like I couldn't lift heavy or anything. So like I was just like kind of just screwing around. I lost a bunch of weight. I got really skinny looking because I was like I couldn't do anything. I was just atrophying, you know. So then started to come back. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get after it. And I remember like making a post. I'm gonna make up for lost time, you know. And so I'm like, oh, get after it. And then I freaking tore my meniscus drilling one day on my birthday.
Just drilling.
I was literally stepping back and pressed my foot on the ground. Oh, there it was. Oh shit, what was that? Don't know. Meniscus. And then it was like this string of injuries, right? And then, you know, had to get that thing healed up, whatever. And then I remember coming back in May, I think it was. I remember being so tired, and like people were submitting me, and I didn't have much for him.
Really?
And I remember Albright was laughing. One of our guys, he's in the gym. He's like, man, we got to get him while he's down, because it's like it ain't gonna last long. He's gonna get back in shape, you know. But he's just like so again. But again, you got to be okay with that, you know, because it's okay. It's just the way it is. You know, I didn't get mad that I was getting beat. I was like, shit. And I you know, like Albright's in there, like whoop my ass. I'm like, be ready. I'm gonna come back for you soon.
You see my physical therapy brain just like trying to put any kind of pattern together.
I mean, definitely. There's definitely some. I think what probably happened was when I came back, I think the meniscus tear was definitely from overuse, because once I was kind of feeling good again, I was like pushing it with the weights, and I think I was just, you know, I was trying to go too hard, too soon, too fast.
I'm back, bitches.
Right, exactly. Like without easing myself back into it properly.
Yeah.
And now when I came back from the meniscus tear, I like set up a schedule where I was like, okay, I'm not doing any rolling, and then this week so I'm going to start drilling on 2 days a week, and then I'm going to roll.
So smart, by the way.
And then I had a plan set out, and I was like, all right, this is the plan I'm going to follow. And I just follow that, because again, it was like, I don't want to be stupid. I don't want to be injured again. You know, and
you learned and like you've gotten so much smarter about your training. I always say that. I always use you as an example because I was like, I've been training with Chewy for like 10 years, 12 years. I don't even know how long it's been. 10, 12, 11? 11.
Yeah, 11 years.
So I was like, as you got older, because you have a birthday coming up. You're going to be
35.
35. So like you've been injured so much less probably the past 2-3 years. And I think your jiu-jitsu has been so much better because you haven't had to take these peaks and valleys, taking time off. You've been consistent and your training has been consistent. You're able to go to a higher level and like you got to know your body better, I think, at this point. But the point I'm getting at is the way that white belts, for example, if you've been training for a long time, you're going to stick with it. You're going to be able to endure the breaks.
Yep.
The way white belts quit jiu-jitsu is they're starting to form the habit or the desire to train, and then they can't train because they get injured. So they rehab their injury, and they come back, and they injure again within the first 1-2 weeks. Then it's another month or two off, and then all of a sudden it's been you've only trained a couple weeks out of 4 or 5 months. And you're like, oh shit, and then you just don't come back.
Yeah, and then again, it goes back to, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Because you got to know, man. Like again, and some people, I get it. Like, because some people say, man, like, dude, you get injured. Like, I know, but it's like, I don't care. It's like, bro,
getting injured.
Yeah, because some people say, like, bro,
my finger's injured.
Oh, your finger's fine.
It still hangs.
It's fine.
It's so sad. You've got some gnarly fingers.
Yeah,
man.
like I was like,
but I have injured. Look at this thing. It still hangs.
Oh, it looks fine.
Oh well. Chewy standards. Thanks, Chewy.
Looks fine. But no, I think about it because it's like, again, there's nothing wrong with it. If you're like, dude, injuries, whatever, can't deal with it. It's fine. Just understand that your body, like, you're going to get injured doing anything. Like, I know people, again, I talk about this all the time. I know people that don't do nothing. They're messed up. I know people that do stuff and they're messed up.
Twist your back and out of the chair.
Now you gotta be smart about your training, and you gotta try to like make sure you don't put the thing to the grinder too much, because you could obviously prematurely wear yourself out. But again, if it's something you want to do, then go do it, and whatever, man. Like, I promise you, it's like probably the worst time for injuries, I think, is the first couple of years.
Sure.
Because it's those first couple of years where honestly you're friggin' like everything gets sore super quick, and you zig when you should have zagged. All this kind of stuff.
You don't know your body. You don't have any body awareness.
Right. You don't have the same
body
awareness
sucks, and you're like you'll leave your limbs out, your arms out in positions when you know you shouldn't.
Yeah. Or
you'll plant your arm because you're being dumb.
Yeah, but like once you're past that point, most of the time the injuries are usually
get a little less.
I think they become less frequent, and usually if they come, it's from different things. Not like, it usually comes from overuse, like because you're just training too much, or you're not properly healing, or other stuff. Not from I posted out wrong, or the guy slammed me wrong, or something like that. It usually comes from...
Usually not, yeah.
Yeah, because I think about like the injuries that I've seen from different people. Most of the time, they don't come from that kind of stuff. Like one of my black belts, Rich, the guy's been trained forever, and he's had one gnarly injury, and he had one from soccer, turf toe. And then,
that's
the
a
other
tough one.
It kind of comes around from time to time. And then the other one, he had a meniscus tear, and the meniscus tear was probably from overuse. But he was training on whatever, and then one day he was working on his chicken coop at the house, and then stood up and pop, there it was. It's just like, it wasn't like he was caught in a knee bar and ripped. And this is a guy trains hard. Like he's not.
He's tough roll.
Rich does not roll and like just screw around. He like trains hard. And so again, he's another example. Like he's most of the time he's fine. Like he just like again, stuff happens sometimes. But even back in the day, like I remember I was talking to the orthopedic when he did my knee back in 2014. He's like, because I had a bucket handle tear, so catch and release. And he's like, you got what the old timers would call a trick knee. He's like, because sometimes it'd be working, sometimes it wouldn't. Because you think surgery didn't used to be a thing.
Right.
You didn't have the ability to get in there and cut that tissue out. You were just that was your life. You had a meniscus tear. Boom. You had this trick knee.
Yeah. The meniscus. I think I've got a little meniscus tear. Maybe both. Both my knees have. Yeah. I've been getting like folded up a little bit, rolling with Damon. Damon, like I'll use my legs and he'll just like, he'll compress me. So, it's funny, man. Jiu-jitsu's kind of, but again, here's the thing. You talked about, if you want to keep training jiu-jitsu, you have to modify your training intensity, your frequency, and also honestly, like it's a good thing that we work different stuff. Like we talked about working back mount or working, guard, or we go through different things. And that kind of helps rotate the tire, so to speak. That helps really with, because then you're like, ooh, I like this position. I'm gonna start working here, and then you do something different that stresses your body differently. Right. So I like it for that reason. I think if you want to keep longevity, keep improving your game, keep changing it up, working different positions. Like I've been playing some lapel stuff, which probably not the best for my hands or my knees or my neck.
You can use lapel. If you feed that lapel into your legs, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't invert or anything like that, but
oh man, but it's there.
Oof.
Inverting is there.
I don't invert. Too damn big for that.
You're like a turtle.
I'm a big boy.
You don't invert, do you?
Very rarely. The only time I'll invert, I'll do like the fat boy invert, where it's more of like just like I'll come up to a side and then kind of roll through. But I don't do that like traditional like inverting up in guard and stuff because I'm like it just seems like a bad idea to be stacked on my neck with people sitting on
really
top of me.
bad. It's
just
a really
it
bad
just seems
idea.
like a bad idea for me.
Risk versus reward, man, because you can be pretty effective by inverting.
Yeah, and the thing is like I know that like overuse of things is going to cause injuries, right? So overuse of having pressure put on my neck seems like just a bad way to go. It seems like I could put my eggs in another basket. That would be like thinking long term. What's something I could do when I'm like,
I got you.
What's the type of style that I could do when I'm 50? My style that I do now, I can do it till I'm 50. My speed would go down, but the guts of the position going to be about the same. There's not a whole lot that I do that's very fancy or that's whatever, but I can use that saying I can ride that pony all the way down, right?
Sure.
I don't have to switch it up.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I don't have to say, hey man, I can't play half guard anymore. I can play half guard. I can play half guard both sides. So even if one shoulder like starts bugging me, I go to the other side.
Yeah.
I can play butterfly guard. I can play like close pressure passing. I can do all that stuff. But if you're saying like, oh man, inverted guard, like I'm not going to be 50 years old playing inverted. I'm like, just it's not it's not something you see. I don't see. There might be some old guys out there. I just don't see a whole lot of old dudes like inverted.
Master Worlds. You didn't go Master Worlds this past year.
Not this past year, no.
I'm curious to look at. I like watching like the trends in jiu-jitsu, like seeing like what people are doing.
And then you go to the Master Worlds and they're doing the same stuff they've been doing for like 5-10 years.
But they're just going hard, man.
But they're good.
Those guys go hard.
I love it.
The one thing with going inverted, people always think about the neck, but man, your low back will get.
Oh sure.
Your low back will get. I mean, you get squished. It's like.
I mean, your whole spine. I mean, just you're getting rolled up.
Oh man. So yeah, it's not the best. It's not the best, but I mean, there is merit to doing it.
Oh,
it is effective.
I mean, there's some guys that do it very well.
Yeah.
Especially some of these small guys that can do it. I mean, it can be like an equalizing position for them.
Yeah. Did you see? By the way, they're gonna have Urbith fight Musumeci.
Why is it?
Mikey?
Why are they getting Urbith?
I don't know. I guess I don't know. Maybe he agreed.
I felt like they had a ton of people like.
They did, but I think that's what they settled on. I think he's gonna Urbith is gonna do something. Something's gonna happen. If he's losing, he's gonna do something.
Yeah, dude. Because it's like he.
I don't know why they picked him, but
because I felt like they were so. I didn't follow it, but I remember they had like a thing where they were talking about the different people.
Yeah.
And I felt like they had some really good names that were interesting.
Gordon Ryan.
Like Gordon Ryan. Like go get that dude. Like I mean,
why? It wouldn't be fair.
Why?
Because
Urbith's fair. He's big as shit.
More fair.
Why?
I think Gordon's better.
I mean, so what? We're not talking about better. We're putting David and Goliath matches together. We're not worried about.
But I think they were doing gi though, weren't they? Are they doing gi?
Put him in gi. I don't care. I mean,
well, I don't know how good Gordon is. In gi.
There's other. I mean, sure, he's amazing. So but there's guys everywhere that I think we're doing it. Like for me as a
who would
promoter,
you have wanted to see?
I don't know. I just as a promoter, I would not want to have some situation where you're like, you got a guy that might charge the ref or something if something doesn't go his way.
It's gonna be fun. It'll be fun. He's a tough competitor too.
Oh, Urbith's good. I mean, regardless of what he does like that, like in that kind of stuff. I mean, as a competitor, he's very skilled.
Yeah, I was curious. I was thinking about that today. I was like, that's an interesting match. Kind of a risky thing because there's a lot of shit that could go wrong in that match. Because Urbith is a little bit. I feel like he's a little. I don't know what the word is. Just a little.
You gotta tiptoe.
I don't want to say anything because he might come after me.
Right? It's like tiptoe because we're talking about fighters. We're not talking about whatever.
He's good.
No,
he's really
good.
Really good.
I just it's one of those things where he's done some stuff at the events where it's like, oof. Where he charged at Felipe Pina, or he was acting like he was injured and they got up and charged the other guy.
Yeah.
There was one of the matches where he punched a dude or something, So it's just like, there's some sketch stuff.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know what the purpose of that is so much. I know Mikey's really good. He's really good, but he's really small.
David and Goliath matches are always fun. I mean, bro.
Like Pride days.
I mean, dude. You think about the underdog, right? Going for the underdog. Going for the David and Goliath match. I mean, that's it just appeals to us. Because again, you're like, oh.
I don't know what it proves, though, really. I mean, if Urbith loses, Mikey's really good.
Mike's very
and Urbith is really good. and we're not going to think either. I don't know what the
it's
fun.
not so much about proving anything as far as,
I guess, just making it exciting.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
you're getting.
I'm on board. I can see it.
Because I think about it, like it's like for instance, okay, here's a great example. Back in the day in MMA, so George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva, that was a fight that people wanted to happen.
They were close in size, though.
Okay, but still, but Anderson Silva fought at 205, right? And so he could do it. So he was still bigger. What does that prove? Like it's like, does it prove that George St. Pierre is a better fighter? Well, great. It's like it's exciting because you're basically taking two people that probably wouldn't normally meet up, and you get to see what happens. And it's like a clash of styles. It's like, ooh, you know what I mean? It's just kind of interesting to see what might happen. You know, that's all it is. It's one of those things where it's because the cool thing is that neither one of them are playing in their own weight class, so it's just like we just get to see this little match where it's just like, well, let's see what happens. It's like, and it's why Pride matches, they used to have those matches where it'd be like, they would choose, think about it. It's the UFC back in the day, but I guess the UFC had a point, but like when you take these different people from these different styles and you're just like, let's see what happens with them. Granted, they were doing it for a big publicity thing where they were trying to prove that jiu-jitsu was better than this stuff, right? But at the same time, it's like, it's also just interesting then later on where they just had different fighters where you're like, ooh, let's just see what happens when we have these types of guys face these types of guys. Just it's variety. It's just some things to spice it up.
I think I agree. I think it's good for jiu-jitsu. I think it's necessary.
And if Mikey does win, the implications for smaller guys is kind of cool because like you can look at that guy, but like, dude, he beat a very tough, heavier competitor. That would be kind of cool. Helen, when you watch him against like Muhammad, man, like
that was a tough match.
It was a very tough match. He did very well against a very like athletic, big, strong black belt.
Yeah, he's got an interesting build too. Mikey's got really short legs,
and really big waist. Yeah. Like when I saw a picture. He was like
Bernardo. Sitting.
He's sitting down, and he's like when he's sitting, he was taller than a guy that's like 6 foot tall.
But
and his legs are like it's
so straight. Like
it's like that swimmer body, right? Cause
right.
Because like I think Michael Phelps, the swimmer, he was the same way. He had the big long torso, short legs.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm wondering. He plays a lot of ankle locks, little inverted game too. I think Mikey does. But those little guys play inverted all the time. That's like a big thing for them. It's interesting, but I don't know. I'm excited to see that if that happens. So,
all right, guys. So hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully, you got something from that. If you guys found something useful in that podcast, you feel free to share me a message on email from the website or even Instagram. Instagram is probably the one I check most often out of all the social media sites, besides YouTube, of course. But feel free to send me a message and sort of share your experience with that sort of idea, or how that's been useful to you, or again maybe why it's not. Again, I'm just kind of curious to see what you guys think. And guys, to end this podcast, again, we are sponsored by Charlotte's Web. Use Charlotte's Web. I sound like I'm 5. I like Charlotte's Web. I can't say my O's. My little sister was I used to mess with her all the time. She couldn't say ours. If you guys want to save yourself some money on the Charlotte's Web products, again, it's good CBD products. And again, I sort of say this, my sort of disclaimer every single time I do this podcast with you guys is use whatever the heck CBD you want to. Just make sure that you get some stuff that's reputable, so you're getting good stuff in your body. Because again, it's like, if you're gonna take the time to put a supplement into your system, you just want to know what you're getting. It's like if you're gonna take the time to cook good food, you're doing it so you know what you get. And if you're gonna take the time to go out and do supplements, you need to make sure you're getting good supplements. You don't want to be getting some junk garbage in you that's not going to help you out in the way that you want it to. So again, you can check out their stuff at charlottesweb.com and save yourself a few bucks with Chewjitsu promo code. They'll save you 15%. And again, check out Matt's stuff at epicrollbjj.com. Solid rash guards and jiu-jitsu gear and apparel. And some of his t-shirts are pretty cool too. And you can check him out there. And again, same promo code jiu-jitsu. Keep it simple, 15%. And again, if you guys want to save a couple bucks on my guard passing series and you want to get a hold of it, you can check it out at my website at chewjitsu.net. Just scroll through the page, you'll find it, and it's there. And it's currently on a soft launch discount up until March the 13th. And at that point, the price goes up. I'm doing this for the people that take action, so to give them kind of a bonus so they can dive into it. And so I got nothing left. Eugene, you got anything, buddy?
You had a really good joke yesterday, actually.
Did I?
You brought it back. You brought back a really great dad joke.
Did I bring one back?
Yeah, it was one. It was good. It was one of your best, and I can't think of what it was.
I don't. I used a really bad one earlier. So how do you cut the ocean in two?
Oh, you told me that one. You said
with a seesaw.
I don't think it was that one. You had a better one. I don't know what it was, but we all got a chuckle. But it was a good one.
We all got a
maybe that one was it. I don't know.
I don't think I unveiled one.
You unleashed a good one.
Because all my old ones, I don't think I used one because I didn't have anybody new to use them on.
So if you want anything for your birthday, get you a dad joke book. You're going to get random dad jokes in the mail. Hey, if you guys, by the way, love the podcast, and head over to iTunes and leave us a review. We appreciate that. And if you got anything out of the podcast on Instagram, the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast.
Oh yeah,
send them there.
We've got it. We've got an Instagram. So
InstaWebs.
Yeah, check this out, guys. If you guys are on,
check this out.
I love how unscripted this stuff is. If you guys this is all unscripted, by the way.
This is the beauty of why we do this. This is why people actually listen. I think.
So if you guys are on Instagram and you would like to either follow the podcast, you'd like to send in requests or any of that kind of stuff, if you'd like to communicate with us via the World Wide Web. I don't know if they even call it anymore.
They
right?
do, I think.
But via the social media, go to Instagram.com, and the Chewjitsu Podcast has its own Instagram. And if you have any requests, any feedback, anything related to the podcast, that is the place to send it. Because I sometimes get messages to my regular Instagram related to the podcast, and then I have to sort of fish them to the Chewjitsu Podcast because that's the one that Eugene, he's a big help with all that stuff, guys. So if you're trying to do something or get in touch with the podcast, that's the place to go.
Everything you need, any promo code issues, whatever you guys need, just reach out to me. Or email is thechujitsupodcast@gmail.com. So thank you guys. Appreciate the support. Chewy?
I'm good. So I hope you guys enjoy the podcast, and we'll talk to you next time.